Today I've built yet another Suburban tank engine, a 1:48 scale New York Central 244T. I had considered building one of these along with the X10 and the D2, but I couldn't find much reference material and I didn't think I could power it. In 2022, I have reasonable answers to both of these issues and have therefore gone ahead with the build. Now, I didn't call it by the class name because the NYC made things complicated by also calling these D2A, though not at the same time. You see, in 1888, the New York and Northern ordered 7 244 tank engines, eventually designated Class D. Around 1910, parent company NYC replaced them with 10 similar but updated units, Class D1A and Class D2A, the latter having superheaters installed from the factory. These locomotives pulled commuter trains in the New York area until the electrification of their line in 1926. On the other hand, the Boston and Albany ordered 18 L-class 266 tank engines in 1906, all of which NYC would rebuild to D2A or D2B, depending on the valve gear, in 1928. This, of course, happened 2 years after the 1910 D2s retired, though I don't know why they decided to use the same designation. Even the more well-known Boston and Albany 466 tank engines reused the older D1A designation. I like these machines for their small size but still contemporary flavor. Older engines often have a more spindly and decorative iron horse look. For example, the famous 424T CP Huntington. Originally, I didn't think I could fit a power function setup, but I recently discovered I could at least fit a motor and battery box. As such, this locomotive has become my first powered-up only design with no option for the older control system. I still have to compromise, though. Fitting even the smallest PU motor requires bulging the boiler in a weird way near the cab. I also couldn't build it the same way as the bigger tank engines. The structural members run over the motor rather than around it, and thus I can't remove said motor easily either. On the positive side, I could build much of the model studs up, and the body does feel less fragile than I thought it would. As for the Gribbles, I had a hard time doing anything structurally sound for the running boards. I don't have much vertical space, and the tiles often don't grip that well. A lot of other Gribbles also have single stud connections, as I made ample use of 1x1 brackets for the first time. As a bit of an experiment, I also Gribbled with string for the first time. And while the motor doesn't come out easily, the roof does to access the battery box, which also does to access the batteries. I actually think the form factor hurts performance more than cosmetics and structure, though. All my Suburban tank engines have suffered from too little weight on the drivers due to battery boxes in the bunkers. the 1928 D2 weighs 620 grams and can pull 140 grams, and this D2 weighs 450 grams and can pull about 90 grams, though both units and even the X10 can pull a little bit more in reverse due to favorable moments created by the drivetrains. Still, the pulling performance depends much more on the bumpiness of the track and whether the second or third axle makes contact. A crude measurement of the unequal weight distribution suggests that the second axle gets about 200 grams of downforce, while the third axle gets 50% more. Recall that the B1 and A6, models of similar weight and much better distribution, could just about break magnets with new tires. For further reference, I will link to a spreadsheet with the weight and capability of all the engines we tested between train pull 1, 2, and after. Regardless, a net 3 to 5 gear reduction gives the 244 a reasonable balance between speed and torque when the wheels do make contact. Of course, I can also disconnect the drivetrain and push with a power car, and this may turn into the thing to do as the smaller D2 weighs less and should roll better than the 1928 one. Unfortunately, conversion takes much more effort than with the older model, and I can't really remove the structurally integral motor at all. Anyway, that's it for this video. Please consider subscribing if you like what we do, and follow the Rubricable if you're interested in instructions. I do plan to make them eventually.